I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works that my soul knows very well. My frame has not hidden from you. And when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth, your eyes saw my substance, being yet unformed, and in your book they were all written, the days fashioned for me, when as there were not none of them. How precious also are your thoughts to me, O God, and how great is the sum of them. And if I should count them, they would be more in number than the sand. And when I awake, I'm still with you. Oh, that you would slay the wicked, O God. Depart from me, therefore, you bloodthirsty men, for they speak against you wickedly. Your enemies take your name in vain. And do I not hate them, O Lord, who hate you? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with perfect hatred, and I count them my enemies. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxieties, and see if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Amen. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. I want to preach this morning as the Lord would lead me from the thought, he knows me, and yet he still loves me. He knows me, and yet he still loves me. Brothers and sisters, oftentimes when you meet somebody for the very first time, when you meet an individual for the first time, you never meet the true essence of who that individual is. You never meet them, you meet their representative. You meet the one who they sent in their place until they get to know you and until you get to know them. And after a couple of meetings, then the representative would take a back seat and the true individual will step up. Oftentimes when we meet somebody, we are trying to figure out from the very first time who they are and what they're all about. But when it comes to being in the presence of the Lord, you cannot send your representative to meet God, because God knew you before he created you in your mother's womb. You can't come and pull the wool over God's eyes. Oftentimes when you meet people and people turn out to be other than an individual who you thought they were, you tend to shy away from them because they are not who they said they were in the beginning. But when you come in contact with God, God knows you in spite of all of you. With all of your flaws, with all of your hiccups, with all of your mess-ups, with all of your curves, with all of everything, God knows you, and yet God still loves you. The good thing about God is God does not treat us like man treats us. When man comes to find out certain things about us, man is subject to slide away from us. Man is subject to treat us differently because we did not turn out to be who they wanted us to be. Oftentimes when you meet people, you have to be careful because people will try to make you into somebody that they want you to be rather than being who God called and created you to be. Many people lose their mind because they spend their life trying to make other people happy. They spend their life trying to be somebody that they're not. They spend their life trying to impress people who do not have the deeds to heaven and they don't have the deeds to hell, but they spend their life trying to impress people because they think people have somewhere for them to spend eternity. The truth of the matter is you need to stop trying to impress people and just be who you are in the presence of God. And if they don't like you for who you are, that's their problem. They got to take it up with the one who created you, who fashioned you, who made you in your mother's womb. And if God is all right with me, it really doesn't matter what you think. Yes, I'm not arrogant. is you wasn't nowhere around when mama and daddy got together. It was nobody but mama, daddy, and the Lord. And as long as I am who I am in the eyes of mama and daddy and in the eyes of my creator, what you think really don't matter. Because last time I checked, you ain't paid no bills, you ain't bought no clothes, you ain't bought no groceries, you ain't paid no taxes. So why am I trying to impress people who cannot help me? I need to be trying to impress the Lord who created me. He knows me, and yet he still loves me. Some 50 years ago, Deacon Anderson, an Anglican preacher named J.B. Phillips, who was a Cambridge scholar and was known for translating the New Testament, he wrote several books. In fact, he wrote a book entitled, Your God is Too Small. In this book, he was speaking to the modern day church and to the midget-sized theology it had based on an undersized God. His antidote in the book to that was the full theology of the big God of the Bible. And chapter after chapter, Phillips unfolds the big God of the Bible. Well, in Psalms 139, we see David writing, and he's writing a cure for man's small faults on God. Though it's so personal and though it speaks in terms of God's knowledge and of the presence with us and his providence over us and his care for us, yet with all of that personal emphasis, with all of what we might say the subjective emphasis, the ultimate focus of Psalms 139 is on God himself. It's on who God is who God is that comforts the psalmist, but he also comforts you and I. As we look at this text, we will learn the principle of each of God's perfections is material for our consolation, because the psalmist in each of the stanzas begins to meditate, spend time, and think about the perfections of God. In verses 1 through 6, the psalmist is meditating on the knowledge of God, not just on the omniscience of God that knows absolutely everything, but that God knows everything about his children. And then he goes to verses 7 to 12 and he begins to focus on the perfections of God's presence. It's not just the doctrine of God's omnipresence, because he is everywhere, but that he is especially present and close to you and I. Whenever there are what's happening in the text, whatever's going on in your life, God is always present with you. No matter where you go, no matter how far you try to run, you can run, but you can't hide from the Lord. He's always there when you got there. And when you turn around to run another way, he's always there when you get there. Now, the perfection of God's knowledge in verses 1 through 6 and the perfection of his presence in verses 7 through 12 and then the perfection of his creation, it shall occupy the thoughts of our minds. In verses 13 through 18, it was God himself who knit us together in our mother's womb. And again, notice, if you will, it's not that just God is the omni-creator, but he is the creator of everything. But it's God as the creator of me. He made me, and he knows everything about me. I don't need people trying to figure things out, because God was the one that made me. He created me, and he knows everything about me. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he said to me, Gray, you seem to be very uninterested in people. You seem to be very unbothered by what's going on in the world. You seem to just be very nonchalant with everything that's going on around you. And I said to him, I said, well, I learned a long time time ago a prayer called the Serenity Prayer. The Serenity Prayer says, God, help me accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. If I can't do nothing about it, ain't no sense of me losing sleep over it. I may as well put it in the hands of the Lord and say like the hymn writer, Lord, have your way. Do with it whatever it is that you see needs to be done. We spend so much time worried about people, and the people that you're worried about are not worried about you. You spend so much time trying to get people to like you and trying to get people to recognize you, that when they start paying attention to you, they're not going to be paying attention to you for what you can do for them, but they're going to be paying attention to you not for what they can do for you, but they're going to be paying attention to what you can do for them. You need to realize God created you to praise him, not to praise people. We spend so much time trying to praise man, and then we get mad when man let us down. I gave them this, and I gave them that, and I did this for them, and I did that for them, and that's the way they gonna treat me? Yes, because they was trying to see just how much they could get from you. But if you would put all of that energy into the one who created you, the Bible says that he'll make your enemies your footstools. The Bible says that he'll prepare a table in the presence of your enemies. The Bible says that if you keep your mind on him, he'll keep you in perfect peace. You walking around here with your mind all jacked up because you got your mind on people that don't have their mind on you. But if you put your mind on the Lord said, I'll guide every one of your footsteps. If you put your mind on the Lord said, I'll prepare a table in the presence of people who don't like you. And then people begin to ask the question, well, how did he get this? And how did she get that? It's because the Lord made a way where there was no way. You got to get to a place as a child of God that when man says no, you take the no of man and lay it on the desk of the Lord and let the Lord make the decision. And if the Lord says yes, you know it's ordained by God. Sometimes man tells you no, and you take the no of man. But God is saying, if you really know who I am, if you would take the no of man and lay it at the feet of the Lord has a way. When people say no, God has a way of saying yes. He knows me, but yet he still loves me. My mama taught me a long time ago, Jesus loves me. This I know, for the Bible tells me so. As long as I got the love of the Lord, everything is going to be all right. Yes, he loves me, he knows me, and yet he still loves me. And when you get to verses 19 through 21, David begins to marvel at the holiness and the justice of God. The psalmist attempts to mirror the attitude and the posture and wick towards wickedness at the end of the Bible. He knows me and he still loves me. We got so many people walking around the earth trying to look for love. Everybody wants love, but we're looking for it in the wrong places. Nobody will ever love you like you need to be loved but yourself and the Lord. The reason people that you connect with don't love you is because they see that you don't love yourself. If you don't care about you, why do you want me to care about you? You got to care about you first Too many times you're looking for people to supply and to fulfill a void that the Lord is saying, I'm standing right here. And once you open your heart to me, I'll come in and make you whole. And then I will begin to prepare you for somebody and prepare somebody else for you. He loves me, and yet he knows me, and yet he still loves me. First thing David says in the text, verses 1 through 6, he has knowledge of me. His knowledge in verses 1 through 6, the psalmist draws our attention to God, to the God who sees and knows all. He's amazed not just at the doctrine of God's omniscience in the abstract, not just at the reality of God's all-knowingness, not just that God knows absolutely everything, but that God sees and knows who we are personally. What has gripped the psalmist is God's personal knowledge of who he is. David says, you have searched me and known me even before the word is on my tongue. God, you know it all together. Before I open my mouth, you know it's in my mind. And before it travels from my mind to my tongue, you already know what I'm getting ready to say. This realization has excited the people of God from the beginning of time. Do you remember Abraham on the Mount of Moriah? He lifted a knife to put it into the body of his son Isaac. The Bible says a voice calls out from heaven and says, do not touch the boy. And the next thing Abraham sees is a ram caught in the thicket. The Lord instructs him to substitute his son with the ram and to sacrifice his ram in the son's place. Do you remember what Abraham said? His heart sings to God. And what does he call God? Yahweh Yireh. What that says, we call him Jehovah Jireh, meaning God will provide. Yes. What does that title mean? It means that God sees all and God knows all. He was singing that his father's heart was moments before breaking at the thought of the loss of his only son. Lord, you see what's going on in my heart. You know I don't want to kill my son, but because you see what's in my heart, the Lord said I wanted to see the obedience. And once I saw that you were obedient, I sacrificed, I substituted your son for a ram. What are you saying, Pastor? The Lord sees your heart and he's waiting to see just how obedient you're going to be. The knowledge that God knows our deepest desires should cause a level of praise. Do you know that it is true for every single one of us, for our deepest and our most secret thoughts, our unspoken desires, our unfilled desires of our heart? God knows what's going on in your mind, and he knows what's going on in your heart. I'm always fascinated, Minister Rosina, with the story of Elijah. 1 Kings chapter 19, the Bible says Elijah had seemed to have won a great victory, and then comes a message from Jezebel that she's going to kill him because of his role in the slaughter of the false prophets of Baal in the northern kingdom. Elijah, in complete disconsolation, runs into the wilderness. But even as he's running away from the Lord, one of the things that come out of the story is that God knows the desires of Elijah's heart. Although Elijah has given up hope, the Lord sees his heart. God not only knows what those desires are, but he knows what your next move is going to be. We spend so much time trying to run from the Lord, but the Lord already knows where you're going even before you get there. We spend so much time trying to pull the wool over God's eyes, but God knows my inward thoughts. The Bible says you knew me when I got up, and you know me when I sit down. You know what's going through my mind. You know what's coming out of my mouth. I heard the Bible say in Proverbs, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. If you thought it, you may as well go ahead and say it, because it's already in your heart. And the Lord is not concerned about what's coming out of your mouth. He's concerned about what's in your heart. If you ever want to know how somebody really feels about you, all you got to do is sit down and have a conversation with them. Can I tell you a secret? Anytime that somebody does not like you, they can smile in your face. But when you stand shoulder to shoulder and look them in the eye, they'll look up, they'll look down, they'll look all around, but they won't look you in your face, because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. You gotta understand that don't you worry about people who don't like you. You just keep your mind on the Lord. The Lord told me to tell you, he sees you, but he still loves you. In spite of where you be, and in spite of where you are, he knows you, and he still loves you, because he has knowledge of you. But not only does he love me because he has knowledge of me, he loves me because his presence is always with me. Verses 7 through 12 of that text, the Bible says, where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? Verse 12 says, even the night shall be light about me. Indeed, the darkness shall not hide from you, but the night shines as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike to you. David moves on the fact that there was nowhere he could escape the presence of God. The Lord is everywhere at the same time. Verse 1 to 6 speak of the God who sees and knows the personal knowledge of his children. Verses 7 to 12 speak of the God who pursues and is present with his children. It speaks of the personal presence of the Lord. The Bible says, where shall I go from your spirit, or where shall I flee from your presence? It's a problem that many of us have. We flee from the presence of God, seeking to find somewhere or somebody else that can be found only in the presence of the Lord. That's why you're not happy with him, or you're not happy with her, because you're trying to find the love of God in them, but you got to find the love of God in God. Yes, he says something in verse 8 that's beyond his knowledge. If I make my bed in hell, you are there. Now that's an amazing statement, because in Hebrew theology, hell was a place, or Sheol, as the Bible calls it, was a place where there is no praising of God. It's the end of days, and there's nothingness in Sheol. And the psalmist says, even in hell, the Lord is there. I just want you to think about that for a minute, because of the glory of the gospel. It is that no matter where you go, you cannot hide from the Lord. Don't you understand that your worship, that you serve and you worship a God whom you can ask or think anything, and the Lord has the power to deliver. Jesus can tell you what death is like, because Jesus is the only one that ever went to hell, and he's been under the power of death. The Bible says for 3 days he knows what hell is like. He's been there before you, but we worship a God who is immortal and who is invincible and who's only wise. He knows what death is like, because he experienced death on an old rugged cross. But in 2018 we can celebrate the fact that our union with God is not severed by death, that our bodies rest in the grave, and we are just asleep in the arms of Jesus, because he's already handled death on our behalf. David begins to celebrate the personal presence of the Lord. There is no place where I can go where the Lord has not already been. No wonder the old church used to because his presence is always with me. But thirdly, because he created me. The Bible says that you formed me in the inward parts. You put me together in my mother's womb. I praise you. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it well. My frame has not been hidden from you. And when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth, it's not just God's creation, it's his creation of the created. Lord, you made me. You put me together. You built me. You know what I'm like inside and out. Nobody can understand my anatomy like you can. You made me. Nobody can do me like the Lord. Is there anybody here who can get excited that I'm fearfully, I'm wonderfully made in the image of the Almighty God? The Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But on the sixth day, he created man in his image. He created the dust of the earth. Formed me in his image. Breathed into my nostrils the breath of life. And man became a living soul. He knows me, but he still loves me. Where can I go apart from your presence? If I go to heaven, Lord, you're there. If I go to hell, Lord, you're there. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of the Lord. Search me, oh God, from the crown of my head to the sole of my feet. Search me, Lord. Search me, Lord. Shine a light from heaven on my soul. And if you find anything that should not be, take it out and strengthen me. I want to be right. I want to be saved. I want to be whole. Is there anybody here that wants the Lord to search me, make me over again? You know me, but thank God you still love me. I can't sing on that choir because they don't like me.
That's all right.
Who cares?
That's all right. That's all right.
Pastor,
Glory.
so-and-so said
Hallelujah.
they was talking about me.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
It wasn't them talking, it was the person who told you they was talking. Pastor,
Yes, sir.
you know you got some folk down there that don't really like you. So, can I translate that for you? When people say folk don't like you, it's not that they don't like you, they don't like God. How do you come to that understanding? Because whatever you've done to the least of them,
That's right.
you done also unto me, says the Lord.
That's right.
I'm fearfully, and the Bible says I'm wonderfully made.
That's right. Yes, sir.
So your issue with me has to be with the creator of me.
That's right.
I haven't done nothing to you
That's right.
for you not to like me.
That's right.
You got the issue, not me.
That's right.
But because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made in his image,
That's right.
I can't waste time on worrying about what your issues are. You got to worry about that. He knows me and he loves me. And what you don't like about me, he loves me in spite of me. We got to get to the place in God where we quit worrying about what people think about you and make sure that your life is lining up with the Word of God. Because when you make it to heaven and you stand at the judgment gate and he opens the Lamb Book of Life, he's not going to ask me whether or not Deacon Glover liked me, but he is going to ask me, did I love Deacon Glover? Because I've got to love him whether or not he loves me or not. So I can't waste time worried about what his issues are, because I'm spending so much time trying to make sure that the one who made me, that one day when this life is over, that I can walk the streets of gold. One day when this life is over, I can sit down at the welcome table. One day I want to hear him say, well done, come on in. One day I'm going to make it to the other side. I'm going to put on a long white robe. I got slippers for my feet, a crown for my head, and a ring for my finger. And I want to see Jesus, the man who died for me, the man who said, I love you in spite of you. He knows me, but he still loves me. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of my God. From the beginning of time, people have been trying to live to the approval of people.
That's right.
On your job, you're trying to get folk to like you. We got young people who are committing suicide daily because somebody said something to me. They said I was fat. They said I was ugly. They said I had a big nose, big teeth. So what? Baby, you're fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. Can I tell you why people maliciously and intentionally try to hurt you? It's because they don't like who they are.
That's right.
They got issues with self.
Tell it how it is. Tell it how it is.
And it's easier for me to not look at me, but hurting you makes me feel better.
That's right.
Brother Scott, that makes absolutely no sense.
But it happens. That's the way it
But
is.
I'm going to hurt you because I want you to feel the hurt that I feel.
That's right.
And I'm not mature enough
That's right.
to simply say, man, I'm hurting.
That's right.
And because of the fickleness of people, I fear that if I tell you what I'm going through, you're going to take joy in telling
That's
him
right.
what I told you.
That's right.
And so I walk around angry,
Come on.
mad,
Come on.
because I haven't come to grips with my own stuff.
Come on. Come on.
Let me give you an antidote for the next time you go through something and you think you're the only one.
Huh.
Go to Romans chapter 3. There, the Apostle Paul said, all have sinned.
Yes, sir.
He didn't say some. All. All included and none excluded.
That's right.
Everybody in this room, me included, got some issues. Ain't nobody in here perfect.
That's right.
Not in this
That's right.
thing we call flesh.
That's right.
Because flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God.
That's right.
But even in your imperfect nature, he still loves you. Matter of fact, he loved you so much, he sent his son to die
Yes, sir.
and allowed that grace to cover you.
Yes,
The saints of God need to know
sir. Yes, sir.
God still loves you.
Yes, sir.
In spite of what's going on.
Huh.
No. The love of God is not an excuse to do what you want to do.
No, sir.
Because when you know better, you ought to do better.
That's right.
But once you come to the understanding of who he is, he has knowledge of me. His presence is always with me. And he created me. But he didn't create me in y'all's image.
That's right. That's right.
That's why I don't have to try to measure up to y'all.
That's right.
He created me in his image. And as long as I measure up to his image, I know it sounds rough, but y'all don't matter. Because he's not going to measure me according to the other people around me. He's going to measure me according to him. That's how he made me. Now, I need to love you, treat you nice, and care about you. Because that's what a Christian ought to do. But he knows me. So what you think you know,
Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on.
we have so many people who are walking around depressed and oppressed
Yep.
because of what they think other people think about them.
That's right.
It really don't matter.
Nope.
It really. And don't, you need to understand that when you get to this level of maturity, people are going to say things like, he's arrogant,
Uh-huh.
he's conceited,
Yeah.
he thinks more of himself.
Yeah.
I really don't, because the Bible says that you ought not think more of yourselves than you are. So I'm not arrogant when I say that. I'm just comfortable in who I am. And because I'm comfortable in who I am, Minister Rosina, I become uncomfortable when I start trying to measure up to what people think I should be. I really wish the people of God could get to a place where you stop worrying about what folk think.
Yep.
I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Songwriter said, God made me. He made me who I am. I'm a survivor.
Yes, sir.
I'm a conqueror.
Yes, sir.
I can't be stopped.
Nope.
And I won't be stopped.
Nope.
Because I was made in God's image.
Yes, sir.
Listen, don't allow your life to be gauged by somebody else's. Stop trying to have what your neighbor has.
Come on, right. That's right. That's right.
Stop trying to be better than somebody.
That's right.
Just be the best you that you can be. That's all David was trying to tell us. The knowledge of God is so great and so vast. Isaiah said his ways are not our ways, his thoughts are not our thoughts. We'll never understand the totality of who God is. But God understands the totality of who we are. Because he made us and created us in his image. The doors of the church are open if you're here. If you're here today and you're not saved,